notice Goliath-sized challenges often feel hopeless because overcoming them seems impossible? Self-reliance will never defeat giants. God-reliance, on the other hand, makes the seemingly impossible possible. On this season of the Challenges Won't Stop Me podcast, gain insights and inspiration as guests share how God equipped and empowered them to overcome their giant-sized challenges with powerful God-reliant strategies, habits, mindsets, and fight verses. With God fighting for you, you too can overcome Goliath-sized challenges. Host Melanie Brown is eager to get started, so let's go!
I'm excited to have Lori Vober with me again today to chat about the mindset of looking for and being grateful for God's miracles, which, interestingly enough, often coexist with challenges. You'll hear Lori talk about the importance of sharing our testimony. She's right. Your testimony of how God was with you, strengthened you, and fought for you during your challenge will point others to Jesus and encourage them to lean on and trust Him during their challenges. Please join me for Lori's Mindset interview. Lori, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
We're going to talk about a mindset that you mentioned in your story episode, and I'm glad you didn't start going into all the details because I wanted you to save it for this episode. What you had shared with me that you wanted to talk about is the mindset of believing in God's miracles over our plans. Woo!
Yes.
That is definitely a mindset that you have to choose.
Absolutely.
So unpack that for us.
Yes. And I didn't always have that mindset. So I appreciate you letting me talk about this. And it's been a journey to get here. It goes back to a stronger faith journey and a dependence on our Creator and an understanding from a physical disability how much I, as a stroke survivor, will recover and not recover and being okay with that. And I originally thought when I had my stroke and then started rehab that I was going to recover everything. And then as I have begun to heal emotionally and mentally and continue to recover physically, I have realized I can work 24/7 in physical therapy, and I still am in physical therapy, but I probably will not recover everything. And so it then becomes a choice of God's plan over ours. And I know there are differing opinions among the Christian community on the movies and the TV show Chosen. I absolutely love the discussion between Jesus and little James in the season 7 of The Chosen. If any of the listeners have not watched it and you struggle with physical disability, this truly changed my mindset because little James is having a discussion with Jesus. Jesus, you have chosen to allow me to be one of your disciples and to heal others, yet you have not chosen to heal me. Jesus point blank says, little James, do you want to be healed? And he says, well, if it's possible. And I laugh every time I've listened to this because of course it's possible. Jesus can do anything because he's God. He then goes on to say, I could heal you. However, I'm choosing to give you a miracle greater than healing your physical disability. I'm giving you the miracle of being able to use the challenges that you have to be a testimony to others. For someone like myself who has a passion to use my challenges to encourage others, I truly love that clip because it's not only an encouragement to me, but it's a reminder of God's bigger plan, so much greater than what I can understand. And if he did choose to heal me and totally give me all of my physical limitations back, yes, my life would be so much easier and my family would be so much less worried, but I would not have the same testimony. When I go into stroke support groups and rehab hospitals, they could hear my story, but they couldn't see in real life the struggles that I live in day in, day out. So I couldn't relate the same way. I just, number one, love that clip. And I love the fact that we have to make that choice of, are we going to get stuck on what we can't do? Are we going to depend on God and the miracles He chooses? And honestly, for me, the first miracle God chose is survival. I didn't have to
Amen.
survive as a hemorrhagic stroke survivor. I didn't have to have the miracle of being as independent as I am. Back in 2003, the statistics of a hemorrhagic stroke survivor living in an independent life was 20%. And so I am already living a miraculous life by doing what I'm doing today. So I think it just goes to our perspective and our belief system of what are we going to believe.
I think that's a great example.
It's not always what we want to hear, but it truly goes back to His greater plan and how are we going to react. And I do believe little James had a true disability, and yet God used him miraculously as His disciple. No matter what our disability is, physical, mental, emotional, God has a greater plan and He has miracles all the time working in our life. It's just our choice of whether we're going to see His miracles or if we're going to get stuck in that little pity party of our plans that didn't work out versus His greater plan that He's still trying to achieve.
Absolutely. I think about the people who've been in significant car accidents and survived when they shouldn't have.
Yes. Yes.
That's a miracle. And while they may have physical or mental or emotional struggles after the fact, they still are a miracle. There are many things that God can continue to do in their lives. There are so many examples of miracles walking around all over this planet. We think a miracle has to be raising someone from the dead
Yeah.
or making the blind see.
Right. Right.
That's what we read in the Bible. And while those are miracles, those are not the only miracles that God or Jesus does in the life of a believer in this day and time. While that would be fantastic, if we only believe those are the kind of miracles that are qualifying miracles, we're limiting God and we're not giving God credit for His grace and kindness to save you from your stroke, to save me from my stroke. And we do have to see there is a plan in it, and that our testimony, it could be a bad testimony, right, Lori?
Yes.
My life is miserable. It'll never be the same. While I understand that, I do. Your
And
life doesn't have to be miserable. It's what you make it. And they're right. Their life is never going to be the same. But that doesn't mean it has to stop.
right.
There's so many other things you can do with what is left, with the healing that you have had.
Oh, we all go through challenges. Life is not always good. There are some really hard moments for each and every one of us. I think back to right after my stroke. I went from extremely independent businesswoman to not even being able to move. I remember being alone in rehab without my family, and I had to make the conscious choice at night when I couldn't move on my own. Was I going to push that call button for the nurse to come roll me over, or was I going to lay all night uncomfortable because I didn't want to bother anyone? There were moments that were detrimentally hard. I even had a conversation recently with my husband to say, do you remember when I was in rehab how much I loved that crushed ice machine? And he's like, well, I remember you like crushed ice. And I said, I think it was because back then pushing that little button on that ice machine was the only thing I felt like I had control over. And all these years later, as I'm sharing with other people, I'm finally realizing it wasn't about the crushed ice. It was just about the fact that that was the only thing out of everything that had happened in my life. Suddenly, I finally had something that I could control. Again, it's a mindset of when we lose control and we are in the depth of despair because of our challenges, but God is good and our faith is strong. It's much more important to look at the opportunities and depend on Him and encouraging others and using my story to help others.
Yes. Talk about some of the verses you feel exemplify this idea of believing in God's miracles over the plans that we think we have for ourselves, and then how we might get upset or mad even when the plans don't go our way. Like, God, excuse me, I didn't give you permission for that.
Right, right.
uh, no, I
Yeah,
don't want that. Take
right,
that away.
right. Everybody loves Jeremiah 29:11 through 13. I did use it in my book. It's on every graduation picture, every graduation card. I do love that verse, but I think a lot of people don't go all the way to verse 13 that says, "You will seek me and find me when you seek me with your whole heart." And yes, He has great plans to prosper us and to not harm us and to give us a hope and a future. But it's to remember all the way to verse 13 that says we must seek Him with our whole heart in order to find Him. It's not a given. He's always there for us, but it's the seeking and the finding Him and being in His Word and surrounding ourselves with a good community of believers that remind us of Him and His plans for us that create the whole package. But I also really love Jeremiah 1:5 that says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." Again, He had a plan all along. And even when we don't understand why this happened, He knew this was going to happen. When you remember that, you can say, "Oh, okay, I didn't understand, and this wasn't part of my plan, but it was a part of yours." Rather than saying, "Why, God?" say, "What now, God? What can I do with this now? This is inconvenient as far as my plan, but it's not inconvenient as far as your plan." I had no idea when I was set up to be in marketing, sales, and customer support that He was going to take every single one of my challenges, and there have been many, to use the marketing and the sales and customer support for my challenges. So many authors love the book writing and they do not like the marketing and the customer support. And I was just the opposite. I was like, okay, can we get past this writing part so I can get to what I love? And and
You just need to pair up with somebody and say, "You just write my stuff and I'll market it. You write your stuff and I'll market you."
right, right. But again, it goes back to He knew all this. If we could just hold tight when we're in that desperate situation of why, and remember, it's all part of His plan. He will show us the miracles. We just have to look for Him. We have to seek Him and find Him so He can show us.
Amen. He has shown so many miracles in my life. I'm blown away, honestly.
Yes,
And it is about seeking Him. I could become aware of a miracle that He did in my life, not when it's actually happening, or not even 2 years later, but it could happen when I'm reading His Word. I'm seeking Him, either in His Word or in prayer. He will reveal a miracle that He has done in my life. And I'm like, wow. We just get so caught up in it not going the way that we feel comfortable with. How about that? Let's chat about
yes,
that.
absolutely. Is there any comfort level in feeling different? Is there any comfort level in not being able to walk or talk or function the way other people do? No, absolutely not. None of this about having a stroke, having a traumatic brain injury, having a medical challenge, being in a situation where we are set apart. None of this is comfortable. But we aren't supposed to be comfortable. We're supposed to depend on God and depend on Him to show us our right direction. But one of the things that I found is when we go through hard challenges, specifically medical challenges, we often lose our identity. We lose our self confidence. We're looking for that support and that acknowledgement from the world, from our friends. And God's like, would you just turn to me? Would you just look for me? I'm going through an amazing study right now on Proverbs. I'm learning so much about His identity and my identity straight from Him. And I'm so excited to share all this more with my stroke community because I think that is truly, for me personally, one of our biggest losses is our self confidence and our identity when something especially physically, happens to us because of how we look at ourselves against the spectrum of the world. And God's like, no, that's not the bar. The bar is not the world. The bar is me.
Amen. Preach it, Lori. In your notes that you shared with me, I want to read this out loud and then for you to explain what you meant by it. The reason I am picking this particular quote is it goes along with what you said about testimony earlier, but I think it dives a little bit deep. I want to end this part of our interview with this quote. If I had complete physical healing, you wrote, my testimony to others would not be the same. And we talked about that at the beginning, but I want to end with that too. How would your testimony be different if you had never had that stroke? Just suppose.
If I never had the stroke, number one, I would not be as dependent on God and my faith would not be as strong because I know my personality. I would choose me over him. Just being honest. I would have no reason to choose him because I think when life is good for any individual, they don't often choose God. They choose them. And it's when we're in our struggle that we turn to God. Once we've turned to him, even when life is good, we've had a taste of who God is. Then we remember the importance of depending on him even when life is good. But life has to be hard for us to get our attention. As far as my testimony goes, within my passion to encourage others that are gone through unplanned challenges like I have, I don't believe I would be as believable to say I understand if I didn't have the same disability that I have today. And if I hadn't walked the same walk, I could sympathize, but I could never empathize.
I like how you put that. You've gained, I've gained things that you just don't gain by having a challenge free life.
Absolutely. When we adopted our children, I had this idea that, oh my goodness, I'm finally going to be a mom. And I really thought I had the heart of a Pollyanna with the missed mindset of unmet expectations. Adopting older children, they were 6, 8, and 10. I didn't understand the trauma and all that we were going to go through. They gave me the beautiful gift of being mom. They're all now independent on their own. I have 4 beautiful grandchildren with one more on the way. But it was a very tough journey of blessings and challenges. But now I see through all the challenges that we went through, it goes back to that empathy, not sympathy. My kids provided me the opportunity to see a lot of hard challenges by raising them that I would have been in a bubble and never understood had I not had that experience. And although I wouldn't have chosen to parent that way and walk that journey and go through some mental challenges that we really went through that I was not ever exposed to, in the world that we live in today and the career choice that I have chosen as an author and speaker, I am so incredibly grateful that I have that background now.
It does give you empathy rather than
Absolutely.
sympathy. I
Absolutely.
think that's a beautiful way to put it. That's something that I've learned by going through challenges. Quit worrying about the challenge. Quit looking at the challenge and making my mind consumed in the challenge. By doing that, nothing's really going to change. When I'm focused on God, my eyes are fixed on him, it doesn't change my challenges per se, but it changes my perspective because I'm looking at him and all of his character and all of the ways that he has shown himself to me to be faithful and true and loving and kind and full of grace. And he is the only one that can do anything
Mm-hmm.
to fix or change or help or improve our challenges. If we're focused on our challenges, it's going to be rough. But if we're focused on him, it's still going to be hard, but he's going to nourish us and love us through the challenge.
Absolutely. Love that. Yes.
Well, Lori, this has been great. Truly, I have enjoyed chatting with you, I guess maybe from one stroke survivor to another.
Oh,
But thank
good.
you so much for being a guest.
Thank you. I truly appreciate you having me, and thank you too for understanding. Thank you.